All right, we are going to do lesson 4.3 today, which is writing decimals in expanded form. Before we begin that, you should have your math journal open to page 118, 3 colored pencils of any color. I would not pick white or black just because those are not going to show up as well, and a pencil. So if you do not have your math journal open to page 118, 3 colored pencils, and a pencil, then pause the video and get yourself situated before beginning. All right, let's have a quick review about decimal place value. We have been working on decimal place value for the past few lessons. You have your ones. The decimal point, we say ands, not points. Then we have our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. And if you recall, we shaded in 4.2 our tenths, our hundredths, and our thousandths. And you also practiced that yesterday in the combo day. So today we are going to shade, but we are also going to be writing our decimal numbers in expanded form, like we did with our whole numbers in Unit 2. So go ahead and look at the math message on page 118. Let me get through it. And it says to shade the grid to represent 3/10, add shading to the grid in another color so the grid shows 31/100ths in all, then use a third color to add shading so the grid shows 312/1000ths. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and pause the video, and I would like you to shade in your 3/10ths with a color, then pick another color and shade in your 1/100th, and then pick your last color and shade in your 2/1000ths. Then once you have finished shading those in, go ahead and unpause the video and check your work with what I have. All right, as you see here, I have 3/10 shaded in. 3/10 is 3 longs because there are 10 of these in this flat, in this hundreds grid here. And so 3 of them should be shaded. So go ahead and check your work and make sure that you have 3/10 shaded. All right, you can see here in the green, I have added 1/100th. So now completely in this grid, I have 31/100ths in all. Now I need to add my 2/1000ths, and this is where you have to be very, very careful that you are staying in the lines so you are not marking more than you want. So you should have 2 little thousandths. So as you can see on my grid, I have 3/10ths, 1/100th, and 2/1000ths. So if I were going to write that in expanded form, the picture helps me. I can write that in expanded form I guess I can't text. Well, I'll just use my pencil here. With 3/10ths, I don't know why. All right, I think I figured it out. So if I were going to write it in expanded form, I would write it as, It just doesn't like me writing over there. 3 tenths plus 1/100th. Remember, we have nothing in our tenth spot and a 1 in our hundredths. Plus 2 thousandths. So we have nothing in our tenth spot, nothing in our hundredth spot, and only a 2 in our thousandths. So this is 3 tenths plus 1/100th plus 2 thousandths. Another way we can write it as expanded form is 3/10 plus 1/100 plus 2/1,000. So those are two ways we can write it. 312 thousandths in expanded form. So if you look further on your page, we are going to continue practicing expanded form. All right, here we go. So this is the same chart you have on page 118. They give an example of 568 thousandths in 3 different versions of expanded form. They have the sum of decimals in standard notation. This is what we are used to seeing. This is what most of you do when we do whole number expanded form. Then we have the sum of multiplication expressions using decimals. So this is just essentially saying that we have a 5 in our tenths place, we have a 6 in our hundredths place, and we have an 8 in our thousandths place. But it does require you to use parentheses and make sure that you are only putting a 1 when you're giving the place value. That is a common mistake, that you put a 5 here, but then you accidentally also put a 5 here because you're used to doing the standard way. So make sure that you are putting a 1 when you are multiplying, and the number that's actually there over on the other side. And then the last one is sum of multiplication using fractions. So it is the same exact thing. I would actually do these first, these two columns, and then move on to the last one. So it's saying you have a 5 in your tenths place. So instead of saying a tenth in a decimal form, they're using the equivalent fraction form. And then a 6 in your hundredths place. Instead of using the decimal form, they use the fraction form. And then an 8 in your thousandths place. Again, they use the fraction form. So let's go ahead and tackle this first example. See if they let me use text box. That'll be easier. I might just stick with the pencil. It's going to take me a little longer, but we'll get through it. So we look at our ones place, and this time we don't have a 0 like the example, we have a 2. So we're going to have to start with 2. And it's just a 2 because we are doing the standard notation. Plus, we have a 4 in our tenths place, so it's 0 and 4 tenths. And then we have a 7 in our hundredths place. So 0 and 7 hundredths. We have a 3 in our thousandths place. So we have 0 and 3 thousandths. And that is the standard expanded form. Probably the one that most of you are going to go to if the book does not tell you a certain one to do. Let's look at the sum of multiplication expressions. So the first part we've done before in Unit 2. It is 2 times 1 because it is in our ones place. We're going to need parentheses. 2, since that is the digit in the ones place, times 1, since that is our place value, plus our next digit is a 4, and that is in our, let's see if I can fit it all on this line, tenths place. So to write tenths, it's 0 and 1/10. So I'm going to go a little bit over into this box, plus, parenthesis again, it is a 7 in our hundredths place. So 7 times 0 and 100th, close parenthesis, plus our last digit is a 3, so parenthesis again, 3, doodle. There we go. 3 in our thousandths place. And then once I get done with this, I want to point out a little pattern here that can kind of help you also to check to see if you got your work right. So we have a 2 in our ones place. Yep. A 4 in our tenths place. Yep. And actually, if you read this backwards, it looks like a 10. That kind of can help you. If you put the correct amount of zeros and always put a 0 in your ones place, it will look like the place value. So this looks like a 10, and it's in our tenths place. So yep, we have a 7 in our hundredths place value. Again, if we put the correct amount of zeros and a 0 in our ones place, it looks like 100 backwards. And then our 3 in our thousandths place. And if you look at the thousandths, there should be 2 zeros and then a 0 in your ones place. So it looks like 1,000 backwards. So that's another little nifty trick that works to check your work. And then they did this one for us. So we can see that 2 times 1 stays the same, but instead of saying 4 times a tenth in decimal form, we say 4 times and replace this decimal with a fraction, a tenth, plus 7 times 100th, plus 3 times 1,000th. So what I would like you to do, not what I wanted to do. What I would like you to do is to go ahead and go down to the next row and pause the video and see if you can solve 0 and 94 thousandths. If you get stuck, feel free to unpause the video and listen to me walk through it, but see if you can do it on your own. So this one's actually a relatively short expanded form because it has a 0 in your ones place, so you do not need to write anything. And then you also have a 0 in your tens place, so you do not need to write anything. So we're just going to jump right in to our 9 in our hundredths place. So 9 hundredths plus the 4 in our thousandths place. Relatively easy. So then if we go to the sum of multiplication expressions, we have a 9, so we need a parenthesis, in our hundredths place. So it's 0 and 100th. Don't make the silly mistake of putting a 9 there also. It's easy to do, so double check. Does it look like 100 backwards? It's 100 plus a 4, forgot the parenthesis, times, and since it's in our thousandths place, we are going to have 0 and 1,000th. And then we are done. Okay, sum of multiplication with fractions. It's going to be the same idea. We have a 9. You're just looking right at this one in the second column. But instead of saying 100th that way, we are going to say 100th as a fraction. Plus, and again, we can come right back over here and we have a 4. And instead of saying 1,000th as a decimal, we are going to say 1,000th as a fraction. And then we're done. So check your work to see if you got them correct. And then if you did, let's go ahead and move on to the next row. Go ahead and try to write 7 and 752 thousandths in expanded form. Pause the video, and then you can unpause to check your work. All right, go ahead and check your work. We have a 7 in your 1, 7 tenths, 5 hundredths, 2 thousandths. 7 times 1, 7 times a tenth, 5 times a hundredth, 2 times a thousandth. And then here's the same thing, except the decimal is changed to a fraction. So go ahead and check that out. I know that is 100th, guys. My 0 got smashed with the fraction bar. As you know, it's a little difficult to draw with the trackpad. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our last problem. Again, pause the video. And this one is a bit different. They do not give you the standard notation now. They give you the expanded form, and you have to work out the standard notation and then the other two expanded forms. So pause the video and see if you're able to do that. All right, go ahead and check and see if you got 637 thousandths is our standard form here, standard notation. And then if you check the sum of multiplication expression and the sum of multiplication expression with fractions. If you did not get anything correct, make sure that you are correcting it. All right, now that we've spent some time working out the expanded form, your next order of business is to turn to page 119. And 119 says you are going to practice writing expanded form and shading the decimals by using 3 number cards to create a decimal on your decimal place value mat. Record the decimal you created in one of the boxes below. Write the decimal in expanded form, Then shade a thousandths grid using a different color to show the value of each digit. Repeat to complete all 4 boxes. So this is just like the math message. You are going to go ahead and log in to your eToolkit through Connected. And you are going to go to, move this out of the way. Not sure why there's 2 going. Backgrounds first, and let's go down to place value. And you want the decimal place value mat 1. And if you can't find this mat, it honestly is not a big deal. You can just put the cards in order on your screen. But then this allows you to then go to your eTools, go to card deck. You are only wanting 0 through 9 for each. Drag them up, and then you can deal them out. 1, 2, 3, and then place them in. So your decimal would be 0 and 625 thousandths for one of the grids. So if we go back to the grid paper, you would write 625 here, 6, 2, 5, and then, sloppy, you would shade in your 6/10ths with one color, shade in your 2/100ths with another color, and then finally your 5/1000ths with another color. So you should be using 3 colors in each grid. Once you've shaded them in, on this line, you may write it in expanded form. You may use any of the expanded forms that you have learned about. So if you want to do standard, if you want to use the sum of multiplication, or the sum of multiplication with fractions, you may. It does not specify which one you must write. So go ahead and do those 4 problems in your math journal on page 119. And then you can find the rest of what you should be doing in your Google Classroom. So math boxes for 3IXL and making sure that you have your 4.1 and 4.2 IXL done. Thank you for hanging out with me, guys. I appreciate you pulling through, and I will see you in the morning, hopefully, on Monday.